Johnny O'Keefe in the afternoon on Shannonside Northern Sound.
So this is the afternoon show. It is Shannonside Northern Sound Radio. It's Thursday afternoon, and as you might have heard that I said on the radio, that the bosses and the powers that be have decided that I should go and learn and bake. So that's our new feature over the next 10, 15 weeks or so. And I said that I know nothing about baking. I've never baked before in my life, but luckily enough, one of my colleagues in the Northern Sound offices has competed in baking competitions, has a very, very interesting Instagram, which we'll get to in just a second, and does be posting photographs on Facebook, not YouTube, of all the things that she's made and all the competitions and medals that she's won. So I said, who better to talk to is Miss Sheila Nocton from Northern Sound. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Johnny. Thanks so much.
Oh, I know. We're very professional here. We're filming this as well for our Facebook pages. So when the bacon aspect came up, I said there's only one person I have to talk to, and it's you. Because when you joined our team a couple of years ago, I did notice that on your, following you on Facebook, first of all, you were quite an avid baker and took part in a lot of competitions.
Yeah, that is the impact of Monaghan on me, because I started seeing all these agricultural shows, which I'd never been to, being from Wicklow, and I went to them and thought, look at these women getting €5 for making a cake. I was like, I'm going to give that a go. And I liked baking, but I had no one to share it with. So I started to bake for all these different agricultural shows, and one of them, they turned to me and were like, you're through to the final. I was like, oh, what does that mean? They said, oh, this was a rounds one. And so I ended up in the All-Ireland final of the baking competition there in Castleblaney and came second.
In the All-Ireland final?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah. I had to bake 3 things. And there was about 12 or 14 of us. And me, and I was beaten by another girl who was the same age as me. So, and the commentator said it was lovely to see younger people starting to compete in these competitions. So that was a nice day.
Yeah, so I mean, an All-Ireland medal, what's the biggest medal I have? That's bigger than a medal from Mosney back in the day.
I have a few of them too.
Oh, actually, you're boasting now. But I suppose the thing about baking that we want to talk about as well, it's a meditation, isn't it?
There's something very therapeutic about it, and I know that that's kind of thrown out around an awful lot, but when you are doing that and you're trying to, follow the recipe and you're mixing things, and especially if you decide to do things by hand and don't use any of the mixers and stuff, which, people don't have to have expensive equipment to do it. It just takes a bit longer. But for me, I'm like, there's no problem with it taking a long time. Sure, what rush are we in? Yeah. Why don't we enjoy it? And you're not worried about what's going on.
When it comes to, you mentioned there now, that's the next question I'm going to ask you, because when I do start this, my first recipe is going to be next week. I'm going to be putting it out to the listeners, what should we make, and we want to try and make the recipe together. When it comes to having utensils, you touched it, you don't have to be a Gordon Ramsay, you don't have to be a Jamie Oliver with these big massive kitchen and all your fancy tools. You can do it with just the general cookware that you have in your house.
100%, because I got as a birthday present after all my interest in baking, I got one of those big stand mixers. I've used it 3 times. I use my handheld little mixer with the 2 heads on it if I'm kind of in a rush and I need to mix the butter quickly. Yeah. But if you all you need is a bowl, a few different spoons so that you're not constantly having to clean them. You can even use your little metal spoons. They don't have to be big fancy things. Obviously your trays or whatever you're baking in. If you don't have, if you really are tight and you don't want to buy baking parchment, you can spray a bit of oil on, but I would always just have something to line your trays with, obviously, because it's just safer. But other than that, then your ingredients. But what you'll find is if you buy the ingredients once, the only things you ever have to top up are milk, butter, different things like that actually go off. Your flour will stay, even your chocolate, whatever it is, that'll hold. You don't need to keep replenishing that every week or whatever.
Just when you mentioned flour there, at the start of the thing we don't mention on the afternoon show, you're in the newsroom, that's your job, because we're in our little bubble. At the start of the thing that's going on outside at the moment, wasn't there a shortage of flour last year?
There was, but another colleague of ours his sister was very resourceful and got, I mean, huge amounts of flour and brought some of them into me. So we were sharing flour in the office. But there was a shortage because I went in, I couldn't get self-raising for ages. But there's a way that if you put baking soda into your normal flour, you can combat that. So also, if anybody is missing an ingredient and they want to bake something and they're right in the middle of it, look up online, substitute for, and enter what it is. There's substitutes for everything.
There is, because actually when we were doing a bit of cooking a couple of weeks ago, we were making chicken curry. I know it's off the bacon topic, but we were making chicken curry, and I like my curry good and thick and strong, and it wasn't thick enough. And she produced cornstarch and says, here, throw that in rather than throwing in other curry powder. So there is substitutes for absolutely everything.
Yeah, like even things like if you don't have butter, you can substitute things in like avocado, if say you did have that around, or anything that would be a fat source or whatever. I know that I'm always running out of baking soda. I don't know why. And there's always substitutes from like vinegar mixed with different things, or even yogurt you can use. So I would say, like, you don't let yourself use the excuse of, I don't have the stuff in. You do. So, Johnny, you've no excuses.
Yeah. You see, the thing is, my fondest memory of bacon, and I mentioned it on the radio the other day, was, the smell that instantly hit me when I walked into my grandmother's house of that freshly baked bread, and then memories of my mother that had, the mixer, and you were making the mix for buns, which I will learn about, and you got to lick the end of the mixer because it was a sweet sort of thing. And then, even the joy of, having even though the kids are back at school now at the moment, like, one thing that I want to tackle, it might sound extremely childish and simple, but I remember my mother doing it for birthday parties years ago, was the chocolate Rice Krispie bun.
Yes, yeah, and you can do fun little things with them as well. It's not always the end thing. It's not always what you produce. The likelihood is it'll taste nice anyway, even if it looks awful. But it is the process of doing it. I get more satisfaction, and I think we all need to learn how to enjoy process rather than outcome, because that's often what makes us feel like, oh, well, what do I do next? If you enjoyed what you were doing while you were doing it, wouldn't really matter what the end goal is. So if you're enjoying mashing all them up and even melt the chocolate and getting to pour that over, that's so satisfying.
It's something that I'm really, really, really looking forward to. And as I said, we will be putting this to the listeners a little bit later on about what my first recipe is going to be. And then, of course, other novice bakers, we will be inviting them to join us. And as you said, don't have to go out and buy any big tools. All your normal kitchen utensils will do. I will go out and get myself a packet of flour to have in the house. Yeah.
The only other thing, and my 2 cents on it is, and obviously it's up to the listeners, but really, really, really easy first thing is a Rocky Road or mint and chocolate biscuit cake mix, because that actually involves no oven. Or if you do want to use the oven, really, really simple brownie recipes out there, which literally just have eggs, sugar, like butter in them. Like, you can get recipes that have very little ingredients, so you've way less chance of getting them wrong. And the best part of those is, so say the Rocky Road or the brownie, at the end, that's when you get to melt your chocolate, put that all over, or you get to get loads of marshmallows or whatever it is that you like and put that all on top. So that's the fun part. So those things allow you to do that. Whereas if you're doing something like, I don't know, a very complicated Battenberg or something, like, you're not going to be jazzying that up at the end.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think nobody really knows how much of a novice I really am at this. When it came to, picking the menu for our wedding 3 years ago, when it came to the desserts, I says, yeah, I love ice cream at the top table. It doesn't bother me. Where, my wife went into, oh no, we're having this, and this, and this, and this. So it is going to be an experience. And as you say, the easier, the better, and the more satisfying it is when you get it right first time. And then build yourself up to the more experienced bakers, like, say, an All-Ireland champion who came second.
Yes. But I would, like, you, I always say, can you read? Is my first question to them when they ask, they say, I can't bake. I'm like, can you read? And they say, yeah. And I say, then you can bake. You literally read the recipe. It's very different than cooking. Cooking is like, we'll put a pinch of spice in. No pinches in baking. It's put a quarter of a teaspoon and no less or no more. So read and you'll be fine.
Listen, Sheila, thank you very much for joining us and giving me the advice, and then anybody else who's joining me on this journey, the advice on what to do also. Thank you very much, and we shall be in contact again.
Yes, happy baking.
Happy bacon, and happy bacon to you. Sheila Naughton from our Northern Sound newsrooms, who is we learn something every new, a very famous baker. So thank you for joining us. This is the afternoon show from Shannonside Northern Sound Radio, and we're back in a sec.